Boys and girls, welcome back to The Wrap, your weekly news source. Wrapping it all up and gifting it to you with a nice little ribbon on top, eh? Wrap number 29 this week. Not much significance to the number, but we keep pushing on, eh?
It's one before 30. It's the last year before...
You're not allowed to go to the nightclubs anymore when you hit 30. That's what I've heard.
Who you been hearing that from?
Just it's word on the grapevine,
If anything, I've noticed that when I've been out, I've seen more older gentlemen, a lot more older women as well.
Well, Dougal thinks you shouldn't be allowed to ride a skateboard past age 30, I think it was. So it's a big age.
Conclusions?
But you know what? We're not even on the Wrap 30, so let's not get ahead of ourselves, eh? How are we doing tonight?
Mate, I'm going really well. We've expanded technologically for all our listeners as well as video subscribers. We're now officially on Spotify, soon to be on Google Podcasts, among I would say Andy's favourite word, a conglomerate of other platforms. So there's no excuse not to catch us anymore, and particularly for our premiere, top of the line, top class show, piece of content, which is The Wrap. So check it out. Make sure you stay tuned because there are some big things coming in terms of content as well as merch. So keep your eyes peeled. Keep your nose to the breeze and your cheeks to the wind, as they say.
Your ears to the door.
Ears to the door and floor to the wall.
Feet on the floor, eh?
But I'm going well, thanks, mate.
Yeah, you took a while to get there, but answered the question in the end. How about you, Dukes?
Mate, I'm pretty good. That's all I got to say. We're going to keep it compact today. Compact like a... what's that Asian chick's name who does the packing?
Oh, it's the really famous one.
Kondo?
I'm not sure what her name is.
Anyway, she's the one who does the packing. That's what the Wrap's going to be like today. And you can tell us her name in the comments.
Yeah,
I think her name's Mary Kondo.
Well, good on you, mate. As per usual, we've got two big stories. We're talking about the bushfires in New South Wales today. We're also talking about the Bolivian coup, which sure to be an interesting listen, I reckon. But for those who are familiar with the show, we don't start off with those stories. We've got a nice little segment to start called Jumping to Conclusions, where we pay homage to the wives and girlfriends who jump to conclusions without any real evidence, any real backing. They're going through your phone type of females trying to expose you when you haven't done none. Haven't done Kendrick none.
Dotties.
She Dottie Yarns be doing that to you. So I throw the conch over to Alex. What's your conclusion for the week, mate?
You know I'm going to blow that ting. You know I'm going to blow it.
What you blowing, bro?
I'm blowing the conch. Let me tell you something, gentlemen. This is my conclusion. I want you to listen up. Japan is the most underrated country in the world.
It's interesting.
It's food for thought.
Sushi for the train.
For the train home.
All right, my conclusion is chicks always look hotter in sunglasses.
Just sunglasses or...
Yeah, and no clothes and just sunglasses.
No. As in, what about other spectacles? What about normal glasses, or is that...
No, not necessarily.
You'd almost say that the reason why he said sunglasses was because he was referring to sunglasses in particular.
I was just saying maybe you could extrapolate the data, is all I was saying.
And us?
My conclusion for the week has been inspired by Dougal's outfit this evening, is that you should only wear NBA jerseys or just sports jerseys of teams you support.
Does Alex support Toronto?
No.
Well, it's on both of you then. It's on both of you.
What are you wearing, bro?
This is actually a brand. This is
Port Aaron Williams? Didn't know they had a team. You're wearing a rugby jersey.
That's actually Grandpa's. Grandpa gave it to me. That's Norman's. Paul Norman, I think his name. Greg Norman's brand. That's right, Sharkies. Yeah. So that's actually a golf shirt. That's a golf shirt you're wearing, Andy.
Yeah, I know.
And,
I'm a big fan
one
of
the great Andy stories is when we went to the driving range and Andy was still, it might have been 6 or 7 months ago, and Andy was just learning how to swing the golf club, and we were all there, and Andy manages, because his swing is not particularly smooth, it's quite disjointed. Andy went all the way back up to the top of the backswing, picked his nose, reattached his hand to the club, and then continued to carry on. It's the all-time cracker from Andy, the disjointed nose picker.
Well, I think that is
Ask Dad about it.
preposterous.
Ask
fake
Dad about it. He
news.
swears by it.
Oh, look, maybe it did happen. I'm a gangster. DGAF on the golf course. I do what I want.
Yeah.
So what are we thinking today, boys? What are we picking? I'd like to speak about Japan if I'm honest, but
We can speak about Japan.
yeah.
Obrigado.
You've been to Japan once?
I've been in Japan 2 or 3 times.
I've been once or
Very
twice.
privileged.
All right, so we'll get back to that at the end. We don't like the loose ends, so we'll get back to it. Now onto our domestic story. It's the bushfires.
Yeah.
DC,
So that's my
you're
story. I'm
up.
doing a domestic story. I think I'll take the domestic story maybe each week, or we'll see how we go.
Hmm.
Anyway, so there's been really bad, serious, quite sad bushfires that have been ravaging New South Wales and Queensland over the past week or two. The interesting thing about the bushfires this season is that this is the bushfires and politics relationship has changed. Where previously it wasn't, the bushfires weren't a political issue, and only to some extent you might say through funding for like fire services and stuff like that. But this year they became a really serious political issue. One, because of the extent of the bushfires this year, which were significantly more damaging in the small period of the bushfire season we've had so far than previous seasons, and we'll get into that. But also because of the increasing rhetoric around climate change. So there's been a lot of the bushfires have been tied politically this year for kind of the first time ever. Now, as of today, Sunday today, when we're recording this, there are 62 fires burning across New South Wales and 35 of them have not been contained. That's as of 5 p.m. 6 people have died and 476 homes have been destroyed in fires throughout New South Wales since the start of the bushfire season, according to the New South Wales Rural Fire Service Deputy Commissioner Rob Rogers. Now, compare this number of 476 homes destroyed until today to the just 37 homes that were destroyed all of last year's bushfire season, right? That's mainly over summer when it's the hottest. And in the previous most severe bushfire season, which was 2013-2014, 248 homes were lost over the entirety of the period, which is about half of the tally where we're up to now. We're not even into summer.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's 2 different issues I want to break down, but I want to introduce the 2 different perspectives that people have taken. One of the climate skeptics and Liberal National Government, and another one of, let's say, climate change advocates. Okay, so climate change skeptics, Liberal National Government. Barnaby Joyce came out and said that the Greens, he kind of blamed the extra bushfires this year on the Greens. He said, or Greenies, they kind of use that term interchangeably for people with environmentalist agendas. So Mr. Joyce said that the Greens had increased the bushfire threat because of the party's opposition to hazard reduction burns, particularly in national parks. Quote, "The problems we have got have been created by the Greens. We haven't had the capacity to easily access hazard reduction burns because of all the paperwork that is part of green policy. We don't have access to dams because they've been decommissioned on national parks because of green policy." Deputy Prime Minister McCormack said, quote, "People don't need the ravings of some pure, enlightened and woke capital city greenies at this time when they're trying to save their homes." Now, just an interesting point, so we're all on the same page in terms of the jargon. While some people use the terms interchangeably, hazard reduction is done ahead of bushfire season to reduce the intensities of fires if they do happen through measures like controlled burning, mechanical clearing, like slashing undergrowth, or even reducing the ground fuel by hand. That's like picking up leaves and sticks and stuff. While back burning is done as a last resort to stop a fire that's already burning. So I think it means if there's a fire that's already burning and you think it's coming over this way, you quickly burn it, control it, so it doesn't kind of contribute to the big conglomeration of bushfire that's the dangerous one. One thing I'll also add to that is that Professor David Bowman of the University of Tasmania, when talking about hazard reduction burns and green policy surrounding them, said that ecologists were concerned that such high frequencies of doing the hazard reduction burns, so when you have a bushland area that you have to burn, say, once every 10 years or once every 15, 20 years, whatever it is, ecologists are concerned that such high frequencies of burning for safety measures can have damaging effects on plant and animal species that require longer fire-free intervals to complete their life cycles, right? So this is kind of the justification for the alleged green agenda, which stopped the backburning and the hazard reduction burns, etc., from happening. Now, the other side of the political aisle, we find climate change activists. I'm going to play you a clip from the Green Senator Jordan Steele-John, and his statement made headlines this week. He's a senator from Western Australia. He's actually only 2 years older than you, born in 1994. And this is what he had to say about both the Liberals and the Labor Party.
Challenge, how dare any of you suggest that in this moment, at this time, it is appropriate to be prosecuting a piece of legislation with the aim of propping up coal. You are no better than a bunch of arsonists. Borderline arsonists.
So that's what Jordan Steele-John got in trouble for this week, labelling the Liberals and Labor Party government officials as no better than arsonists, right? But further, not to label all people, who are the climate change activists, like, just throwing around names. So this is interesting. Greg Mullins, who's a former Fire and Rescue Commissioner of New South Wales, proclaimed a, quote, new age of unprecedented bushfire danger had arrived courtesy of global warming in action. He said just 1 degree temperature rise meant that the extremes are now far more extreme, and it's placing lives at risk, including firefighters. This week's catastrophic fires are exactly the type of disaster that emergency leaders and climate scientists have been warning about for decades, and the summer hasn't even begun. Senator Di Natale from the Greens sparked a row on Monday, a row, some people say it differently.
It's row.
When he said, every politician, lobbyist, pundit and journalist who has fought to block serious action on climate change bears responsibility for the increasing risk from a heating planet that is producing these deadly bushfires. Now, from the commentary I've read, most people agree that it's not climate change that starts the fires, right? It's combination of, it's hot weather, it's wind, it's sometimes deliberately lit. The link that's being made to climate change is that one, the fire season is longer than it used to be, so it starts earlier and finishes later, which gives, let's say, less time for backburning, hazard reduction, etc. And that also the fires are more intense. Now this is on top of the reason. One of the other reasons why the bushfires are so intense this year is because of the prolonged drought that Australia's been experiencing over the past year, right? So there was not much moisture at all in the ground, and it was very dry. So that's perfect bushfire conditions. And then a lot of people who are on the climate change activists would say that the drought itself was a product of climate change, and so that's where we find ourselves today. Now, the first thing I actually do want to talk about is that the Deputy Prime Minister McCormack said that we don't need to be hearing from the kind of holier-than-thou lefties at a time where people's homes are burning. And it's kind of a similar point that gets made whenever there's a school shooting in America, that this is not the time to talk about guns. Now, I don't actually really agree with that. I think you should kind of be able to talk about it as it happens. And I don't really understand why you shouldn't. I mean, it's not like you wouldn't talk about economic policy if there's an economic collapse that's happening. That's the first point I want to throw to the floor. What do you guys think about that?
No, I think that's right. I think that's fair. I think if there is an actual political element to this, and there is kind of the extent to which government intervention or otherwise has contributed to this, these fires, it's only the beginning of the fire season basically anyway. And even if it wasn't, if it was right at the end, I don't think, there's no time like the present. There's no real excuse, particularly if you are a senator or you are someone who's being paid on the taxpayer's dollar. to not represent the taxpayers throughout the whole year. And I understand it is a sensitive topic, and you should definitely approach the topic with a degree of sensitivity and emotional awareness, considering kind of the state of affairs, particularly people's homes are being lost, properties destroyed, etc. But no, I'm with you 100%.
Enos, any points on that?
No, I totally agree with you. That I think if the issue is as pertinent as it is, you have an obligation to talk about it. I feel like people should want to address issues rather than sweeping it under the rug because it's too taboo. I think that's childish.
Sure. I don't like the censorship aspect of it. Now, the second point, and the more media point, is there, I can imagine what Alex might say, is the severity of this season's bushfires linked to climate change? Alex?
My understanding of, because obviously this is not the first big lot of bushfires this year, basically California had an enormous fire season. Well, basically there was just a bunch of massive fires. And it appears to me that there is a common denominator. However, so let's just say for the sake of the argument that climate change does contribute to these fires and that they're making it worse. Man-made climate change, sure. I would say that's something that, the whole world would have to contribute to find a way to reduce emissions and to get behind. So in terms of an actual cohesive response to climate change, that's not something we can really do for this bushfire season, nor is it something we could probably do for next bushfire season. That's something that we could maybe aim for if we're doing this whole net zero by 2030, we could maybe do that. But the far more pertinent and the far more pressing thing, even if we assume that that has something to do with it, would be to say, well, what are the actual practical, tangible things we can do right now to reduce the severity of the bushfires next season? We're going to have to look at the way in which large areas of national parks are kind of immune from hazard reduction measures, the ways in which various policies surrounding the management of the parks, particularly, and kind of alleviating the tinder and the undergrowth has impacted these fires, as well as the way in which we are directed resources towards fighting / preventing them. So I would say, even if we assume that climate change has got something to do with it, there's far more pressing and I would say far more practical things that we can do right now to help reduce the severity of these burns. Things that we saw in America, basically the same thing was happening in terms of the management of the forests, the management of the parks. You weren't allowed to clear it. There was zoological concerns, ecological concerns, which prevented people from going into backburning, prevented people from clearing undergrowth and stuff.
I think you'll find that actually most people are going to agree with you on this point, and that the contention within this topic over recent weeks has been about the link to climate change and the link to energy policy, the link to burning coal and fossil fuels, much more than it has been about bushfire kind of regulation, because I think both people actually we need to fix that up, and I think that's bipartisan agreement. What would you say in terms of the link to climate change, and should that be influencing energy policy?
My understanding has been, and look, I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert, but my understanding has been, and this is kind of, up until very, very recently, my understanding was that even the very, very progressive green aspect of the media weren't at all trying to link extreme weather events and climate change. My understanding is that even if you can prove the kind of the 1 degree warming or the 0.25 degree warming that they're claiming has already happened and that we're moving towards 1 degrees, there is actually no link so far, no scientifically tangible link between extreme weather events and climate change. That's been my understanding. I'm not, perhaps the consensus has changed, but up until very, very recently, my understanding was that even very, very kind of progressive environmentalists have not been asserting the claim that there is a tangible link between extreme weather events and climate change.
Yeah, also on that, considering that last year, as you said, there were only 37 homes destroyed, I'm not sure how in 1 year we've had such a massive increase. I'm not sure how you can say that's completely on emissions policy.
Nobody said it was completely.
Well, how that's how climate change has become so much worse over a 1 year period that 440 more homes have been destroyed.
Well, Andy, I don't want to come back on you, but I think mixing up what they're saying. What they're saying is that it would have been a bad fire season regardless. What they're saying is though it's particularly bad because it's been encouraged by climate change, and that's what they say when a slight increase, which is what it would have been since last year, on the average temperatures or the means would have a big increase or have a big difference at the extremes. Okay. That's just a statistical.
Okay. Yeah. Point. Okay. Yeah. You're right.
I think it's very, very difficult for us to be able to narrow down one factor, because considering the ways in which bushfires are started and propagated is ultimately going to be a combination of weather and management. So the extent to which you can really chalk it up to one or the other is almost always going to be
sure, but the climate change activists would suggest that the weather's inexorably linked with the climate. Inexorably.
I'm not sure if that first
word. Sure. Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah,
but would they be able to give a percentage and say, well, we can absolutely chalk up these bushfires were 95% caused by the weather compared to 5% mismanagement? Like, I'm saying it's very, very difficult to put a number, and for them to say, to be championing that it's entirely basically. I don't think they're saying it's entirely, but the real pressing issue is not the management, but the climate change. I think it's difficult to draw that conclusion.
Well, but when you have, I think it's important that we, as Dougal said before, we don't put everyone that's on the for climate change policy enactment, that we don't put them all in the one basket. Like, as you'd have the senator who said that the government and Liberal and Labor are arsonists, he would have a different opinion than I'd say most of the people that are for this climate change policy enactment. So I think that some of them, like the extreme ones who are saying that it's primarily mismanagement, I don't want to dismiss the idea that it could be that, but it does seem a little bit silly. And for the rest of the group, who's a little bit more central, I would say that I lost my train of thought actually.
Okay, well, keep the centre in mind. Keep the centre in mind. Alex, I think that basically finishes the bushfire story.
It's obviously it's a tragedy and it's an awful thing, but we when we have situations like this, we have to be looking at ways in which we can mitigate that. If that's reducing emissions, I'm open to hearing it. But
I think we found ourselves actually on the side of Di Natale in the talking about the issue, wanting to talk about it openly instead of withholding the conversation for a later date. And I think we found some mixed opinions about the link with climate change and bushfires.
Yeah, obviously, we should go forth with a degree of scepticism, as always, as concerned citizens.
Okay, what happened in Bolivia?
Now, Bolivia. You wouldn't believe it.
Live in coop.
I don't believe it. Bolivia. So Bolivia is a nice little country in the middle of
Europe?
No, South America. South America. It's caught in. I'll get the map up.
What's it next to?
I think it's Uruguay, Peru. Let me
say probably
Uruguay
Brazil.
Also sounds like a European country.
Yeah, so it's right next. Sorry, Peru, Paraguay, Chile, and Brazil, basically. Its administrative capital, La Paz, sits on the Andes Altiplano Plateau with snow-capped Mount Illimani in the background. Okay, so what happened in Bolivia? Well, it's a long story. It's a good story. So Bolivia's president,
Love a good story.
what was
strap on in
ex-president now, Evo Morales, has been overthrown in a military coup on November the 10th. So that was a week ago today. He's now in Mexico. He has fled to Mexico.
Drinking Coronas on the beach, I bet.
He's sinking Coronas. He has been ousted by what has been described as a right wing with elements of fascist kind of military-backed coup with a Christian tinge to it. So it's interesting to see the Christians, or alleged Christians, are engaging in coup d'etats. He is the first indigenous president. He was the first indigenous president of Bolivia and the face of the movement for socialism in 2006. So he's a pretty radical, far left-wing operator who has kind of vaulted to power in 2006. And there's been a bit of drama in Bolivia in recent weeks, and it's been there for a while. There's been undercurrents of it, but basically what Evo has done and has done previously he's begin to seek to nationalise a bunch of the key industries in Bolivia so as to not be kind of raided by these transnational corporations. So he's put forward
Sounds
this
a bit like Chavez and Maduro.
The boys, yeah.
Neighbours. That's a type of Neighbours TV show I would watch.
Now, one of the really interesting things about Bolivia is there is about 70% of the world's lithium in Bolivia. Now, lithium...
I've got a buddy who loves lithium stocks. They make the batteries, like electric batteries, I think, out of lithium-ion batteries.
Do you want to do the story?
Let him comment. Come on, Mr. Strop Monster's back.
Okay, so and I was actually going to give a little bit of a spiel on lithium if anyone's keen. I've actually
Is
got
that why?
Well,
Did I steal your thunder?
no, you didn't. Bolivian lithium gained value thanks largely to California air quality policy. In 1990, the Golden State basically forced the auto industry to produce battery electric vehicles. So as a consequence, as you said, Dougal, because of the reliance of these electric batteries on lithium, the value of lithium skyrocketed, and the biggest beneficiaries were the Bolivians. So there's about 70% of the world's lithium in Bolivia.
You best believe it.
You best believe it. Now, obviously, that's an incredibly valuable resource, particularly to growing
electric car
industries, renewable sectors, particularly amongst kind of upper middle class, which you see a lot of in America. Okay, so
Energizer Bunny is loving it.
This is what Tesla uses, lithium-ion batteries.
So they often refer to the lithium triangle, so which is the vast area of lithium-rich salt pans in the Andean high desert that overlaps Argentina, Bolivia, and Chile. So that's just an interesting byproduct. It's important to remember that there's almost always an economic underpinning or an economic backstory to a lot of these revolutions or coup d'etats, which on the face of it seem as if it's just kind of a people's revolt. But as we've often discussed, revolutions are often led by intelligence agencies and intellectuals.
I'm waiting for when you tell us about which deep state actors are involved.
Oh,
Well, we don't really know yet. We don't really know yet, but
You know,
Revolutions.
wild guess.
aren't made in white gloves. I think that was
What
Lenin.
did you say?
Revolutions aren't made in white gloves or something like that.
What does white gloves mean?
Means like you got to get your hands dirty. Even though like you have the intellectuals who lead it, you got to get people that get their hands dirty in the revolution.
Made in dirty gloves.
They're not made in the white glove. Even if you go in with white gloves, they ain't coming out white. They're gonna get some dirt, some blood, and some sweat in there.
Okay, so there was an election held in Bolivia on the 20th of October last month. Now, there was massive drama surrounding the election because although Morales was declared the winner, there was a whole bunch of alleged tampering in the voting process, and he basically declared himself the winner of the election despite there's being a huge gap in the updating of the polls and whatnot. So the OAS, which is the an organisation which looks at elections and ensures that there's kind of made sure that the process was fair and just, said that
What they say.
in the 4 factors review, technology, chain of custody, integrity of the tally sheets and statistical projections, irregularities were detected ranging from very serious to indicative of something wrong. This leads to the technical audit team to question the integrity of the results of the election on October 20, 2019. So the real guts of it, to give a 5-word summary, the OAS report suggested there was quite clear manipulation and serious security flaws in the election. So a lot of people were saying that this was an unjust election in the process of itself. Now, interestingly, Morales was elected in 2006, and at the time, in the Bolivian constitution, it always said that you could not be re-elected. Basically, you serve 1 term. I think it's 1 term or 2 terms. Now, he is now about to serve his 4th term. Okay, now the reason is because whenever he gets re-elected, he then amends the constitution using the High Court, who are apparently friends of Morales, to ensure that he's able to stay on for another term, basically. So Donald Trump has weighed in, and this is interesting because this could be a case of good Trump, bad Trump. Quote, after nearly 14 years and his recent attempt to override the Bolivian constitution and the will of the people, Morales' departure preserves democracy and paves the way for the Bolivian people to have their voices heard, Trump said in a statement. Now, what Trump is referring to is what the New York Times described as, quote, with the Constitution preventing him from seeking another re-election in 2019, Morales called a referendum in 2016 that proposed allowing a second consecutive re-election for the president and vice president. Now, this was rejected on a referendum by the people. Okay, however, Morales' party convinced the Constitutional Court to rule that his candidacy was legal, saying term limits violate a citizen's human right to run for office. So obviously that's kind of a legal principle, and that involves a whole bunch of jurisprudence, and we're not lawyers, but, you know, interesting side note. So
Sounds a lot like a Gundy.
It sounds a little bit like a spin, but the opposition has called Morales' presidential candidacy illegal, and a senator woman, after the Morales has been essentially kicked out, has the opposition leader has decided that she's now the president. Now, obviously Morales will have something to say about it, and he has.
He wouldn't like it.
He didn't like it.
One bit. And
his reaction is exactly what you'd expect. He said, quote, this is the sneakiest, most nefarious coup in history.
My favourite is insane sneaky.
Sneaky is, I think, doesn't get a big enough
like
run.
something that Donald would say. Sneaky and nefarious Democrats.
So Senator Janine Anez of the centre-right party Democratic Unity is currently the interim president in the unstable post-coup government in advance of elections. So we have to remember, and what's important to remember,
so she got the backing of the military.
Basically. Now, a key factor, and this is why I think the economics is always important. Now, so he was elected on a very shaky election in October 20, okay, which got a lot of people calling it into question about the legitimacy of the election in general. However, Morales on November 4th decided to cancel the December 2018 agreement with Germany's ACI Systems Alemania in regards to a lithium export deal. So he's basically said, at this point, Morales was basically ramping it up, and he's saying, okay, we're just going to nationalise the whole thing now. You know, we're going to control what goes out, and to be honest, we're not really having a bar of anything that you greedy TNCs want to do with us. So obviously you've got that on November 4th. November 10, the coup happens. It's not, I don't think it's a coincidence. Headline reaction, Dukes.
Mate, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, I'd love to see the evidence, and I'd love to see the cables and the transcripts and stuff, but it would not surprise me one bit. I mean, one of the things I think that's interesting is, like, well, is there justification for the coup? Well, like, maybe. It's how do you justify a military coup ever? It seems like there might be 100 countries where you could probably justify a coup, but we only do it. It only happens occasionally, and when it is done, it's done in the interest of the people. But why doesn't it get done in all the other countries? And it seems like the economics might be the deciding factor. And it would not surprise me if there was significant transnational military involvement, let's say, or, you know, just a backing that a blank check that says if it goes haywire, like we'll fund you, or we'll send people over, we'll do whatever. And it's those exact type of little countries which people have kind of heard the name of, but they don't really know that much about it. But often very rich in some like natural resources. Yeah. That are the ones who just. I reckon if you did like a study of, like, I don't know how you do it, but like small countries high in national resources with
attempted
coups, it would be, you know, with suspect foreign intervention, it would almost be, I think, always high natural resource countries.
High natural resource, low standard of living, low level of education, number of coups.
Low level of interaction with American people. So the American people don't really know about the country.
For sure. And I mean, I assume most people would think Paraguay and Uruguay are basically...
I thought it was in Europe.
I thought it was in kind of like the Balkans type of area.
Yeah.
Eastern Europe, you know.
Yeah.
Somewhere around where Franz Ferdinand got capped.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
But no, it's in South America. It's actually pretty much the central aspect of South America. Now, there's a couple of things that we have to consider. This is yet another one of these South American countries which has been essentially run by a socialist government. The standard of living has not really massively improved as far as we can tell. It's yet another example of trying to nationalise the national resources. But is Trump wrong in his assessments? Number one, even if he is, we've seen him, he has, although he is kind of he's anti-regime change in Syria, he was more than willing to say and put his feelings out there in terms of how he wanted Maduro gone, another country incredibly rich in Venezuela in natural resources. He's then put his hand in the ring again with Bolivia. Is Trump sticking up for the kind of capitalist principles and a desire to improve the lot of the people, or is there, and I know we really don't want to think of it, but we should entertain all options, and that's what we pride ourselves on, is Trump channeling some of the establishment deep state sentiments when he does say things like he's happy that the leader is gone? Because remember, he was, although the election was shaky, he was previously elected a number of times, all democratically.
I think we can't. It's hard in Australia to point out where the line is in the sand where you say a coup is justified. But I think if we take into account, even though it's not completely confirmed, but pretty likely that this election was rigged, or at least not gone through to its nth degree, I think we can say that it's not a democratic election. I feel as if even if Morales, homeboy, he has a cutting jawline. Morales, even if he would have won or he may have won, I don't think we can say he was elected off democratic principles. And then from then on, I think you get closer to a justification. I would say it's probably a little bit of bad Trump, though. A little bit of bad Trump where... let me rephrase that. I think there is a difference between him being able to say that he's happy that the leader is gone, and there's a difference to that and him having these capitalistic deep state intentions. I think that we need to take the comment on face value, which Trump said, where he said he's happy he's gone. I'm not sure if that means he personally would justify that military coup. I think it probably would, but I think it is a little bit of bad Trump, even though it's a little bit sketchy at the moment. I think it's a little bit of bad Trump.
What do you reckon, Dukes? Good Trump, bad Trump, separate issues, can't relate them?
Well, I think if, as far as we know, face value, America wasn't involved in the coup, right? So I think you're very much allowed to say, if you're not involved, or at least you're putting up the face that you're not involved, that you're happy somebody is gone, right? So let's say there was a military coup in, not comparing the countries, but in where there's previously some type of authoritarian dictatorship, there's a native military coup. I think you can say that they're gone, and that might even be a good thing. The thing that would, I think, the thing that would change that, or the thing that would make that more complicated, is if you actually did the coup and then you said it.
Well, you financed the coup, well.
Yeah, and so I think if Trump maintains that he wasn't involved, I think he's allowed to say that. But I don't like the idea of even getting involved. Even one thing I'd say is that I don't really care that much about. Like, you just should be so careful before you get involved in another country, like deciding who another country's leader is. Like, even if their elections were shaky, even if there was an authoritarian person who came through a revolution, I mean, it doesn't mean you should do a counter-revolution. I think Trump is probably fine there, but as well, it can be very difficult to really assess what Trump actually thinks. I mean, one second you get Trump saying he's going to send the fire and the fury at North Korea, and the next he's going on cute little walks with Kim Jong Un, or he's one time he's dropping 56 Tomahawk missiles on a Syrian army base, and then next he's pulling US troops out of Syria. I would be surprised. I don't know if Trump has a plan for South America, and if he does, I don't think we know it. And so judging this one is very difficult in that context. But so far as we don't know if US is involved, I think he's probably okay to say he prefers the new leader or the new government than the old leader.
For sure. And I think, even if the CIA did finance or assisted in it, the CIA operates with such a degree of autonomy and independence that there is absolutely no guarantee that even if Trump, even if they did finance or operate or assisted in the coup itself, that Trump was across it or okayed it. Now, you would hope to think that there would be, because he's the commander-in-chief, but obviously the CIA, to some degree, operates entirely autonomously of both the people. Like when you have situations where the CIA or the NSA are spying on its own citizens, obviously you would hope that doesn't actually get passed through the government, because you would imagine how much bigger those stories coming out of WikiLeaks would have been had the NSA gotten the approval, say, of Obama or Bush or whoever it was. You would assume that would be kind of the big story. So even if it was the CIA was involved, there's no guarantee that Trump was. Firstly, I think he's okay to put his views out there, provided that he's not actually providing the means or the ways for the coup to take place. And I think the thing about this, and one of the most interesting things about the way for me is that the left, the establishment left and the establishment right has never really seen a coup they didn't like, because out of that coup normally arises some kind of America-friendly dictator who's more keen to do a deal on some oil or some natural resources. And obviously this is, in truth, looks like it could be one of those times where what they call white gold, which is lithium, could be heading
to the US.
To their friend.
Mm. Yeah, the only other thing I wanted to raise is push back a little bit on Andy's comment of the capitalist deep state greed. I think those two are very separate things, because I think the fundamental principle of capitalism is two parties coming together for a voluntary trade. I think when we say the deep state and corporate interests, it's not actually two people coming together voluntarily. It's the combination of greed with government force. So what that means is that there's actually no consent involved in the interactions. It's greed accompanied by force rather than self-interest accompanied by consent.
Or if there is consent, it's heavily skewed, and the tables have been turned in such a way that it's...
Yeah.
Which I think is entirely possible.
It's the forces of... Yeah, so I wouldn't want necessarily people to get mixed up with capitalism and the deep state, because I think that the deep state only operates when there's significant government mechanics of compulsion, which wouldn't actually be there in a pure capitalist state.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, we'll see how the coup turns out. Morales is he's in Mexico at the moment, I assume, having a couple of mojitos on the beach.
From where you'd rather be.
I'd advise him, just chill out, bro. Politics is a tough game. He's learned it the hard way. Chill out on the beach, get yourself a couple Mexican honeys, and chill out. I'm sure he's got some zeros in the bank. I'm sure he can bring his family over. He'll be sweet. That's what I'd tell him. I'd say, mate, just live it up.
Find some dime pieces down there.
For sure, but one of the interesting aspects of this story is the Christian element of the right-wing coup. So, for instance, the senator who is declared himself the president, waving Bibles around the whole time, after the coup. So, I mean, I don't know what the Pope has to say about it, or what the Anglican Church, but they should definitely keep an eye on it, because there may well be a strong Christian extremist.
What was the coup like? Do you know anything about the coup?
The coup itself?
Was there any deaths?
I actually don't know.
It's a mystery. It's a chance
card. I wonder if there would have
card.
been a fight, like a battle in the palace. malice.
At the moment, there are protests. So 8 killed in Bolivia as protesters call for a return of ousted President Evo Morales. But I don't think, because you wonder how a coup actually works. Do you know what I mean? Like, have you ever imagined it and thought, is it like a bunch of army people like storming into the parliament and they put Morales in a bag and then like
in a choker hold?
In a choker hold, or like put him in a van or something like that, or the actual like how it actually works. Do you think he would have security?
I reckon it's just probably one guy walks in with about 500 guys behind him. The security guard's like, all right, we're outmatched. One guy says, hey, look, bro, we're in charge now. And they say, okay, we're on your team. And
well, if you've watched White House Down or Olympus Has Fallen, you know that they take out the security systems first, so you don't know they're coming, and then they come in.
And you're doing this thing with your eyes right now. It's freaking me out.
I'm crazed, bro. I'm crazed. No, yeah, that'd be quite interesting, actually. Well, Morales obviously had enough time to flee, so they must have known it was coming.
I don't know if he's really fleet. Like, if you get done in a coup, like, normally they lock you up. This must be one of the nicest coups ever.
Well, he probably had friends inside the military.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Now,
allegedly, I was watching Grey Zone with Aaron Mate, who is basically, I reckon he's one of my favourite journalists. Could be my favourite. He was basically the key lead journalist who basically destroyed Russiagate from the beginning. He's actually a really progressive guy, like super far left. Like, I think he advocates quite strongly for the Green New Deal, but he was one of the guys on the left who saw the impeachment and the Russiagate as a sham for what it was, and he actually won an award for it. But he was saying on his show when he was talking about it, he believes that the CIA was involved, but he also says that he heard rumours, or one of the guys on his show heard rumours that the military personnel were getting paid $50,000 to turn on Morales.
Oh,
Where's
really?
the money coming from? Where's it coming from?
So that's a lot of money.
50 G birds.
50 G bangers.
50 G smackers.
It's years, probably a couple of years worth of pay for Bolivia.
For sure. For sure.
Take it.
So, look, keep your eyes peeled, keep your nose to the wind. We'll see how we go. Now, I think that basically wraps that story as far as I can tell. Are you happy with that?
Well, for those who are seasoned veterans of the show, you know that we don't leave no damn loose ends. And we are jumping back to the conclusion of...
Hold on, I want to do this. I hate interrupting you.
Well, you do it pretty often, so it doesn't seem like
sometimes it really... It gets on my nerves, it does. When people want to emphasise a word, and then they start saying the S on the end of that word differently, and they start saying it like... So when Andy goes... Usually he'd say, we don't leave loose ends. But Andy will say, we don't leave loose ends. Ends. Does anyone else notice that some people do that?
I think you're trying to draw a pretty sweeping general characterisation on the basis of one of Andy's speech impediments.
No, I'm not talking just about Andy right now. I'm talking, there's a lot of people, I know people that do it, and Andy's done it, and that's why it triggered me, because it's... Anyway.
Well,
let us know in the comments.
I'm glad that got out on the show. That's supposed to be compact like your little Asian lady friend who you were talking about at the start of the show.
The cleaner lady.
Mary Kondo.
Yeah.
Is that her actual name? Anyway, Andy, carry on. I don't like to see you interrupted. You had your train of thought. You were moving ahead nicely.
We were steam powered onto the finish.
Kondo or Marie Kondo.
So, going back to your conclusion, Alex, remind the people what it was and justify it.
My conclusion is Japan's the most underrated country in the world, I think. And let me tell you, this is exactly why. If you're going to judge a country on objective characteristics, Japan,
like what?
Cleanliness, friendliness to the people, food, things to see,
culture.
I would say those are 5.
What about natural, like the wilderness? What about natural features?
Natural features.
What about pillow girlfriends?
Sure.
What about cat cafes?
Cat cafes, yeah, for sure.
What about sumos?
So, yeah, just cultural on those 5 things. Japan, I think, would be in the top 3 on all of them. But if you ask someone, where is the one place that you would want to go in the world, barely anyone says Japan. Therefore, by consequence, it is the most underrated country.
It's because there's no white girls in Japan. Because it's usually white girls who talk about their travel stories, and you're forced to listen. If you're a beta, you listen. If you're a Chad, you don't listen.
The Chads still end up with the girl, don't they?
They do.
Well, the thing is, I think if we had a most underrated country, I feel as if we probably wouldn't know much about it. So like that, like
When it was hiding in plain sight.
yeah, what could be? What if New Zealand's the most underrated country? No, but it'd be somewhere like Peru or somewhere like that, or Bolivia, where no one actually really hears about it ever, but it's actually really quite nice.
Okay, but if you're going to measure on the characteristics that I just said, cleanliness, friendliness, I've forgotten most
What
of them.
about people's rights? Are they in Japan? I don't really know. They're alright in Japan, I reckon.
Food, culture, things to see. I think Japan beats them.
I think
At least 3 out of 5.
I think America's the most underrated because it's the greatest by so much.
What? Why is America the greatest by so much?
It's freedom of the people, brother. It's freedom of the damn
Well, they've got
people.
the NSA spying on them and stuff.
There's not much the government can do there. That's the
Well, they can.
That is the government.
In fact, the government.
The government is doing the spying.
it's the autonomy of the NSA.
I think I've got that one.
I don't think I'm.
You don't have it. I think Marie Kondo might even be from Japan, and she's contributing to the culture of cleanliness.
Well,
Messy room, messy mind.
thanks for that, mate. I think we're done here. I think we'll let you win. I'm too tired to put up a fight here. So well done, Alex. You win. Jumping to conclusions this week. I'm not sure if it's a prize you can win or lose. I like to say it since I won last week. Defended.
I don't
Good
have much
victory.
bad things to say about Japan. I would say China might be underrated. China might be underrated because nobody really even goes to China. People go to Japan. Like, people go to Japan for skiing and even go to Tokyo. Nobody really goes to China that much unless it's for business.
Dude,
Or studying.
Yeah, hardly anyone though.
Well, if you're taking it as
Comparatively.
what's the
Out of
population?
Chinese people.
I think that's unfair. I think you're setting up the parameters.
But I think it's a good point. I think Japan definitely right up there.
Japan is sick.
Like, I don't think anyone's ever had a bad time in Japan. That I bet.
What if you get lost? Then Japanese people aren't usually good at speaking English.
No, but they will.
That's
They will get on the train with you and make sure you get back to where you need to
No,
go.
no. I'd push back on the kindness. The public transport. The people in public transport are not kind. When in regards to
I've heard Japanese people are exceptionally kind.
like when you're packed in on a train or something. Or
Give me an example.
like when we were in.
I think they have a serious rape
Transport
issue in Japan.
for on public transport.
Oh, a sexual assault issue. Yeah. in
Like
particular.
when you go onto the subway in Japan, you could have everyone just rushes for the seats, and even if you have a lady standing there, no one will stand up for her.
You've been to Japan, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. So it's first-hand experience. I actually met Cameron Dallas in Japan. That was pretty cool. I didn't know who he was really, but
I still
I
don't know.
don't
I remember you
know.
telling me who he was, but I've forgotten it again because I didn't know who he was in the first place.
Is he a SoundCloud rapper?
he's one of the pretty Insta-famous boys. One of them ones, like the Dolan twins.
I also don't know who that is.
Who are the Dolan twins?
They're all Instagrammers and YouTubers and.
So
they're
like
just-
mates with Chris Paul and stuff?
No, they're not mates with Chris Paul.
Mates with a certain actress who you didn't know who she was.
So I don't know what you're talking about. I think we're done here. Alex, you win. Victory attained. Well done. For those who like the show, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. If you want Dougal to stop flexing, put it in the comment section down below. If you like us a lot, if you want to give us a little bit of your money, see our Patreon, all the links to all our stuff, our social media and stuff's in the description. Thanks for being with us. We'll catch you next week with wrap number 30.
Sounds great.
See you
Can't
later.
wait.